Congresswoman, you join us at what seems to be maybe the apex of the American experience. I just don't think I've ever experienced a better 3 weeks of my life. And you were regularly on the program warning us that this would be epic, but I wasn't prepared. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you.
It's a whole lot better than what it was when I first got elected, that's for sure. We're here for, I actually just left the oversight hearing where you saw that meltdown just occur on Elon. So it's been quite interesting. There's Elon derangement syndrome here in Washington.
Let's go ahead and grab that, boys, if we can, if there is a proper meltdown. Can you explain to us what happened, and then we can jump into DOGE and some of its work?
You know, we've had now this new Congress for the last, 3 weeks, basically a month now, and all Democrats seem to be focusing on is not what President Trump is doing for the American people or how we're actually winning wars, these quote-unquote trade wars against, other countries, actually bringing these countries to their needs and making our country a better place. But what they're really focusing on is Elon, and so you're seeing them constantly. I think yesterday there was protests on the Hill on Elon. It seems like every single day I'm hearing Elon's name in some capacity. And so I really hope these people can get serious and get back to work, because it's pretty wild to watch.
They're really angry that Elon's shadow government is dismantling their shadow government. They're so upset about it.
You know what's so crazy, though, is when you actually look at what DOGE is doing, all they're doing is basically showing actual taxpayer-funded receipts for programs that were completely unacceptable that we were even funding in the first place, and yet somehow he's now the biggest boogeyman they've ever seen. I would argue, though, no one ever complains about George Soros really engineering world governments and really backing a lot of these Democrats, and yet they're supposed to be painting Elon Musk as the boogeyman. So it's really hypocritical.
It's an unbelievable cringe fest, and we've been playing some of the. Can you just pop it up as B-roll? Some of your colleagues having menopausal, hysterical, truly medicated meltdowns about Elon Musk. This is the cause majeure for them. Like, this is it. Like, they're saying they're going to burn down in these clips. Congresswoman, they say they're going to burn down the city. This time to shut down all of Washington D.C. and burn it all down because of Elon Musk. I thought they loved immigrants. You're right.
Yeah.
I thought they loved African Americans.
It's pretty crazy to see. A lot of these people, again, they're siloed in this DC bubble. But when you go and talk to normal Americans, remember, President Trump just didn't win the Electoral College. He won the popular vote. That means that people across every race, color, and creed, and also socioeconomic status, really voted for him to be president. And they love the message that he's bringing. Right, he is following through on all of his campaign promises. People wanted border security. People wanted the deportation of violent criminals. They wanted to protect our young people. They want to stop the fentanyl pouring into our streets, and they want to really help combat inflation. And President Trump is doing all these things. But I really think that the Democrat propaganda machine, they need a boogeyman, right? So they've painted Elon to be this big boogeyman that they can all attack. But what they're not realizing is, look, full transparency, I hope that they continue hitting that, because I think it's a losing message. I think everyone loves Elon, and I think that they appreciate what he did for free speech and purchasing X. But looking at it from an actual political perspective, and then also seeing what DOGE has done, what President Trump has done, Elon's not breaking any rules. In oversight, they just tried to subpoena him. They didn't want to do anything when Garland ignored his subpoena. In fact, every single Democrat voted against that inherent contempt vote that I brought to the floor. So again, this is just them losing. They're grasping at straws. They're trying to paint a boogeyman, but they have to be careful with the rhetoric, because as we saw with President Trump, people will get violent, and someone tried to, assassinate President Trump not just once but twice. And so if they're making calls of violence, they also should be held accountable.
Yeah, that's right. It's such a great point. Like, didn't they just indict Trump in D.C. for calls to violence? And now there's a new sheriff in town. Let's talk very quickly here, Congresswoman, about the FBI, the CIA, oversight that you've obviously done and hit brick walls up against the FBI and CIA. Now there's massive purges going on inside of those organizations. This is necessary. And can you explain what the buyouts are for? So everyone at the CIA gets a resignation letter yesterday. Lots of how's that going? Lots of FBI agents effectively being fired right now, and maybe more to come with 5,000 involved in January 6th. What a shakeup.
Well, look, the whole, I think, goal and objective of what initially the CIA was established to do and the FBI was established to do has become perverted over not just one administration, but many administrations, right? And so they're not even anymore focusing on going after terrorists. They became weaponized against the American people. Remember, they were going after people that were attending church because they were pro-lifers. They were going after people that were peacefully protesting out front of pro-life clinics. That should not be the scope and the objective of the FBI or the CIA. And frankly, what we're seeing is President Trump came in and has seen that there has been absolute indoctrination of some of these agents, and more, instead of focusing on tackling crime, tackling terrorism, pushing of an ideology and weaponizing them against the American people, almost like you would see a secret police do. And that's really, I think, what they were becoming. And so what President Trump has done, what the administration has done, and really what the new director of the CIA has done and the new director of the FBI has done, is they're taking the politics out of what those organizations are supposed to be. And that's how it should be. Justice is blind, if you will. And so really what they've offered is these people at the agencies the opportunity to basically leave, basically receive funding in order to do so and carry on with what they want to do, but it's not going to be in the federal government if they are going to be continuing to be engaged in a weaponized system. That's not going to stand anymore. And so I support what the administration is doing. I've talked to many, many agents that have done incredible things, to include obviously investigating things that I believe saved my life. But look, at the end of the day, everyone has stated that it has become political, that it's more focused on DEI instead of crime solving, that it's more focused on going after the American people because they might have a flag out front of their house that says, appeal to heaven, which was that very historical flag that General George Washington had during the Revolutionary War. And so, again, I look forward to these purges happening. I think that it needed to happen a while ago, but I actually just posted a meme, Benny, and as you're seeing with what we are uncovering, the laundering operation of tax dollars under USAID that was funding the CIA's dirty work. I mean, these were things that, to Eli Crane's credit and Representative Gates' credit, back in the 118th Congress, they were fighting. They're trying to expose, and our own body fought against that. So we have a lot of work to do, but it helps having the 800-pound gorilla and the 800 other pound gorilla in DOGE, so we're happy.
Here's the meme: USAID, my tax dollars, somehow also my tax dollars. So this is a story that's broken and going completely thermonuclear. The Politico funding from USAID, but not just Politico, the BBC. Why are we funding the BBC? New York Times. This seems like prima facie political corruption. Mm-hmm. Now my inbox is filled, Congresswoman, with sources coming to me being like, this Politico reporter, they were literally on the government payroll. Their job was to bury stories at the Department of Transportation to protect Pete Buttigieg, to publish, there was paid propaganda. I'm getting people coming to me from inside of the federal government saying, no, you don't understand. These Politico reporters were PR agents that the federal government was paying for to protect Joe Biden. And what you can see here is the exponential increase in Politico funding as soon as they published the Hunter Biden laptop psyop on the American people to rig the election. Look at this. The federal government didn't fund Politico at all. They got pennies. And then as soon as they published that to rig the election in 2020, Politico just get this massive fire hydrant of federal funding. It sure seems shady, Congresswoman.
It's extremely shady, but again, I think that a lot of the people who have worked as independent journalists have realized this about legacy media early on. I don't think that they realized how bad it became under the Biden administration, just this dragnet of control and then using our taxpayer dollars to really suppress free speech. But it doesn't just stop there, Benny. I mean, this was also happening with taxpayer dollars. I mean, remember the Yoel Roth clip from Oversight last cycle? We uncovered that the Department of Homeland Security was working with CISA. They were doing the same thing, joint state actors. I mean, this stuff was all illegal activity, but if you don't have people in office who are willing to fight that, put forward the legislation, and you don't have the executive branch to actually codify that legislation, we end up in these positions. So, I mean, frankly, look, everyone knows that the media and the intelligence agencies have always had a friendly relationship. This is blatant evidence of it. For those people that are going forward and exposing it with the platform, I do believe that what Elon Musk is doing, he's doing at the risk of potentially his own life. And you're seeing people make threats, you're seeing people come forward, but this is not just something that goes away and everyone says, okay, you won, that's it, it's over. These are, I think, have been taking place for decades, operations to suppress information to the American people. And that's how you end up with, the assassinations that take place previously that are going to be coming to light here with the declassifications in the next coming weeks. So it's an interesting time to be in politics, but we wouldn't have this opportunity to really correct and stop a lot of the rot affecting our country if we didn't have President Trump at the helm leading our efforts. So
interesting that you bring up assassinations, because yesterday we spent an hour with Mike Benz, and he was detailing how USAID is used to destabilize, assassinate, and do regime changes and coups around the world, and how this is really just a CIA cutout. Do you agree with that contention? What's your experience with USAID?
Yeah, so my first experience with the USAID was actually, I was meeting with some foreign governments several years back when I first got elected, and I had gone to a few locations, and I had actually picked up, because they had brought up the USAID funding. And that's when I first was like, this is kind of interesting. Who controls that pot of money? I'm now sitting on the House Foreign Affairs Committee head up by Representative Brian Mast. And so I know that we'll be tackling that head on as it's our jurisdiction. And then, as we know, Rubio's also stated that he's going to back that as well. But what I will say is I think what Elon Musk is doing is dangerous. And I think that people need to understand that he's not just out here trolling people on the internet. I mean, when you go up against that type of consolidated power and operation, you're talking about, Mike Benz being up here talking about destabilizing countries. Those are very powerful people. And so to his credit, I think that he needs to continue. I think that these arms and the propagandas that have been used to smear and destroy people's reputations, their families, everything, as pressure campaigns to get them to fall in line, that's been launched by the legacy media. Well, now we know who is funding it.
Wow. So you've now brought this up twice, Congresswoman. Do you think that Elon Musk's life is in danger, in jeopardy? Should Elon Musk get Secret Service protection?
I think that he has probably security in place. I mean, you don't get to that position with being stupid. So I definitely think that he's probably taking the necessary steps. But again, people, it might be on X and it might seem like something like maybe just a tweet, a post. But when you're putting out that type of information that's literally blowing the lid off of, again, I would say just a rotten to the core money laundering operation that's impacted and influenced nations falling. I think that's pretty, you have to have a big set of balls to do that. So
yep.
You can say that.
Also, you're the Congresswoman. Okay, so you are the Congresswoman. Can you please give us the state of the other side of the aisle? I mean, obviously, some of these people that are having these hysterical meltdowns. Like, are they okay? Like, do we need to do a collection at church for like therapists for them, or SSRIs? Like, do they need extra Xanax filled? Like this like in the greater overall scheme of things, all the reports say that they're not doing well, like the Democrats.
No, and I think that there's a lot of Democrats, though, that are saying, well, our money shouldn't be going to these operations. But again, they're trying to consolidate the message. But where these people would typically have the mouthpieces of, I would even argue, CNN, we know that CNN's seen kind of a shift in their messaging. They're not getting the overhead support that they typically would get, and so it's falling flat because I think the American people have knowledge, and knowledge is truly power. And that's done through social media, through free press, journalists like yourself. And as we know, the White House now opening up to the free press, the Pentagon now opening up to the free press, even Congress opening up to the free press. That is really changing the state of things. So, I mean, look, these people, if they are so obsessed with Elon Musk, I would definitely think that they need to talk to someone, because I don't sit on my phone all day long and think about what Elon's doing. I'm actually trying to do my job, best represent Pinellas County, the American people. But it's like you get dragged into these discussions because they're so obsessed. Like, I guarantee I'm going to have to walk back to the committee because they're probably going to try to do something crazy again, like maybe subpoena Elon Musk's, ex-wife, twice removed second cousin. Like, we don't know. These people are just unhinged. So we'll be here for the fight, but definitely not what I expected, especially out of them.
Elon derangement syndrome. Listen, we focus quite a bit on George Soros. He's another rich guy that plays in politics, but it's totally different. George Soros is very like dark and evil and tries to do things in the shadows. Like Elon's transparent. And he's funny, and he's like likable, and he's posting memes, and he's like doing it for the public good. And he's doing it, and he's bringing this all out in the open. I think it's the easiest win ever for Democrats. We started the show off saying this is the easiest win ever. Democrats should just say, yeah, there's a big appetite to cut the federal government. We're going to join with Republicans on some common sense cuts and like say, yeah, okay, we're down with that. But like they're off a cliff, and I love it. It's delicious.
They are, and I also think that this goes into the bigger discussion. Like, we know that a lot of these very radical, I would say not even Democrats, but like progressive leftists, if you look at actually how they were elected, it's because these carve-outs were created in some of these states with the gerrymander, and they're actually drawn into these very blue areas. So I would argue that ideology is not even what truly represents what some of these blue dog Democrats are seeing. And they actually know that within their own party, there's a massive faction and a split. Look, Republicans, we might not get along, but like at a certain point, we're not going to be advocating for just like a total destruction of the United States.
Yes.
These people, not so much. And so you're seeing kind of this, I think they're just stuck in groupthink bubble, and they don't truly understand what the American people want. And right now, the American people wanted peace in the Middle East. In fact, both Jews and Muslims endorsed Trump prior to his election. Trump comes up with a deal, and they're melting down over it. It's just like, it's the wildest thing to watch. And so I'll just continue to talk to normal people and people not in Washington and do my job. But I mean, my goodness, you would think that these people have something better to do than focus on Elon.
You touched on something that is going to lead me to something I'm very excited to talk about, which is your big announcement, and as much as you can tell us about it on the show. But you touched on something that's very interesting, which is revealing where this money actually is going, because they've been hiding it, and clearly USAID was the golden goose and was the funder of all of these like astroturfed left-wing movements and causes. All these protesters that seem like it's their permanent job to go protest. Yeah, they're getting paid. They're getting paid by you and me. Like all of these idiots with the clipboards, right, at the mall. Like all those people are getting paid by us. Mm-hmm. And it's this giant, massive money laundering operation. You go look into Bill Kristol and where he gets his funding. It's all fake. It's not real.
It's infuriating, but it's also actually deeply saddening, because if you realize what good we could have done as a country, not just for our own people, but I think on the world stage, if we didn't have, it's corruption, Benny. Yes. If the corruption didn't exist to the magnitude that it did, think about what that money could have gone to, right? Like we talk about, and like I didn't want to get into the student loan issue, but like just think about that for a minute. All this money going to foreign governments, going to regime changes, going to funding things that I would argue are perverted. Think about what we could have done for the education system and the American people. Think about what we could have done for people suffering here in this country, homeless veterans, people that are coming back, you know, in the name of fighting for the United States, coming back with actual physical and mental traumas. And then they're just kicked to the curb by the previous administration. I mean, this is just, it's unacceptable. And so you see that, and I'm glad it's happening, but it's also hard to watch because you realize that for so long, the American people were so innocent and trusting of their elected officials, and then you see what's actually happening.
Ah, such a great point. Yeah. Okay, so how do you regain trust? Something that is near and dear to your heart, because you're young, and because you're a young mother and you're raising children. You want, presumably, you want to trust your government. You want to trust federal law enforcement. And I assume this has something to do with your massive announcement that you teased earlier in the week, where you said, "I am going to do something that will change the face of the American government forever." Here's the exact language of your post that went thermonuclear. "I have an announcement next week that will impact the entire nation. Press conference to be announced soon." Everyone's wondering if it's aliens, but maybe it goes even deeper than that. Congresswoman, can you tell us?
I think it's bigger than that. I think, without getting too much into the details, and the date will be posted soon. You'll find that date for the press conference. I'd actually encourage everyone to tune in, and we're going to be opening it up, if we can, to some independent journalists as well. But I think that for far too long, people have been lied to by their government, and I think the way that you regain trust and you really help restore the nation, and I think bring back not just, I think, hope, but also, and remember, hope is contagious, but you really help it to secure it for future generations. I think that you have to have a fully transparent government. And so I won't get too much more into the details, but we're going to be doing something really big. So I am happy that I was entrusted with this, and I'm going to be doing some good stuff with some incredible people, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Okay. So the obvious follow-up question there is, if you're talking about transparency with the American people into their government, Kash Patel on this program months ago saying it's time for a government declassification office. Is it going to be something like that, where we'll be able to actually not have any more state secrets, something like that?
I will wait till the press conference, but what I will say is that, you know, the Senate has a job to do. They would do right by the American people and do right by, I think, themselves if they don't block the confirmations of RFK, Tulsi, and Kash Patel.
Yes.
And we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So more transparency. You need that in any. You need that in any trusting relationship. It's actually an abusive relationship if you keep something from your spouse. If you're secretly hiding and going around behind their back, like, that's seen as an abusive relationship by everyone.
You know, I was talking to someone last night, and they brought up a great point. And, you know, when we fought for independence from the King of England, right? We ultimately said that we are a sovereign as an individual, that the individual U.S. citizen has the exact same rights as you do. We don't answer to you. Our freedoms come from God inherently. That is such a powerful concept. And so when you have people in government, when you have offices, when you have departments, an entire system that's stacked and then creates a system that operates in secrecy, that in itself, Benny, is not a truly free country. And so JFK was right. You know, a lot of people who have come before me, there are a lot of people in office now, but a lot of people who've come before me, Democrats even, fought for that. And so why would we allow this type of behavior to keep? We have 2 years to change the country for, I think, arguably generations to come. So why would we not take that opportunity?
Can you just really quickly here, when you say JFK was right, can you expand on that?
Just in his speech that he gave on secrets. You can't operate in secrets.
Yes. Boy, JFK found out the old-fashioned way that there are some major powers that you cannot run up against. Donald Trump damn near found that out as well on the campaign
Donald
trail.
Trump, and to what I was saying earlier, Elon is doing that. And so, yeah, Elon might be, the rocket man, but he's also doing some great things that I think people don't fully understand the magnitude of what it is. And so I would just argue that people understand what he's doing.
Yes. Okay, so in closing here, Congresswoman, based on this announcement and everything that you're doing, I mean, it really does seem like I've woken up in a different country, actually, than the country I've lived in for the last 30 years. And it's really exciting. And I don't think that there's anyone who can stop this campaign of shock and awe. Also, Donald Trump's gotten rid of all the lawfare money, right? By stopping USAID, like, by cutting off the money train.
But it's so precise in everything. Like, it's been planned and it's being flawlessly executed in a way that you cannot. I mean, like, it's flawless. It's actually quite impressive to watch.
It is. So your outgoing message to resistance libs, that might be burrowed inside the government, like what FBI agents that ran down J6ers, what's your message to them?
If you did do that, you should probably quit. But aside from that, that sometimes when you, for example, if you have a baby that's sick and you know the medicine is going to help that baby and the baby doesn't want to take the medicine, you have to figure out different ways to give the baby the medicine, and ultimately the baby takes the medicine and gets better. This is medicine. Yeah. Strong medicine, Congresswoman. Strong medicine.
We look forward to a dose of that with your announcement. You have us on pins and needles. Congresswoman.
Thanks,
everyone
Benny.
Everyone follow the Congresswoman, please. Right here, 262,000 Americans make freedom fighters strong. See ya.
Thank you.